Hi guys, thanks so much for watching The Social Life, the place to be for entrepreneurs with a purpose. And today I'm going to be sharing my favorite book with you. Well, one of my favorite books. I feel like I'm always saying that something is my favorite book, but honestly, this one book is the book that actually got me started with my nonprofit. It helped me actually get started, and it's called The Lean Startup by Ries. And the reason why I love this book so much is because hold it up again. But the reason why I love this book so much is because it really does take you through what it's like to take a really big vision that you might have of your idea or your startup idea, like whether it's nonprofit, for-profit, doesn't matter. But whatever it is, it takes you from that big vision to bring it way, way down to, the smallest piece that you need, the most critical piece that you need to actually start the startup, so that instead of pouring your money into something that maybe you don't necessarily need. So for someone who's starting a nonprofit, it might be like maybe you don't need to go get the 501c immediately. Maybe you need to see if you can test your idea first under a fiscal sponsor and then get started. So for us, that would be, for people who start nonprofits, that would be a good way to bring yours down to the smallest idea and then start with, the testing phase. So what this does is it takes you through a couple of phases. It takes you through your MVP, which is your minimum viable product. What is the most basic thing you can start with, right? And then it takes you through testing. Then you want to test that idea. Test it and see if it works. Test it and see where the glitches are, where are the problems, what things are you running into? What are people saying? What's the feedback? All of that. And the testing phase is extremely important in this book. Then it goes into the pivot phase. And in the pivot phase, you are now taking all of that feedback and all of that information, and now you're changing it to see, how you can fix it. So imagine if you made a big, investment into something, you created what you thought was the perfect thing, but your customers hate it. So in this idea, in this book, what he basically is trying to help you avoid is exactly that. He doesn't want you to start something huge and then your customers actually don't really like it. So, or they're giving you feedback that now you can't really change because you've put too much time and effort into it. So he's saying, start with your most basic thing, put it out to the world, test it out, and then pivot. And I had to do this exact same thing with my nonprofit, and I feel like it saved me a lot of time and effort. And let me tell you, you will continue doing this with whatever venture you have. If it doesn't matter what you start, if you start it with your minimum viable product and then you build on top of that by testing and pivoting and testing and pivoting and growing, then you will always be testing and pivoting and growing. So even after years of having my nonprofit, I still test it. Whatever new thing we put out, I still test it. Then if it doesn't seem to be working, then we pivot. And there's nothing wrong with that. I talk about pivoting a lot in most of my videos just because I think a lot of people think it's like a bad thing to change course or change direction on whatever you're working on. And I actually think it's a great thing to do, and maybe I feel that way just because of that book. But before, when I was trying to figure out how can I start this thing up without, pouring in a ton of money and potentially wasting time and other people's time and not even knowing if this actually will work, this is how I did it. I read that book and I thought everything he said in it made sense, like complete sense. And then I started my nonprofit, and I found that, it was so much less stressful to start without the pressure of having this full thing that I had in my head completely ready to go. And I'm not kidding. I pivoted so much from my original idea to what we are now and how things run and the processes that we use now, tremendously. I feel like I can't even say how I'm trying to say it, but it was a tremendous change. It was like a huge pivot. And the reason that I did the pivot that way or the reason that I was able to pivot and kind of change course immediately with the feedback I was getting is because nothing was completed, right? So people could come to the website, I could see, oh God, they're having a lot of problems here, or someone could email me and say hey, this actually wasn't working. And I could go back and I could change it right away. I could take feedback and I could immediately change it in my business. And so I think it's really important that what he's saying is to start. So some of us worry about, like, does your website have to be perfect? No, your website does not have to be perfect. You can add things as you go. You can build it as you go. You can see what things people want and what things people need when they come to your website. What feedback are you getting? And work off of the feedback. Build the product that your consumers want. And that's essentially what the Lean Startup is all about. It's about starting with a minimum viable idea and then reiterating that idea over and over and over, because you're testing and pivoting and growing based on whatever feedback you get back from your consumer or your customer or your clients or whatever service you provide. You know, you're building the product that people want based on the feedback and the testing. And this book tells you how to do all three of those steps so that you're building something that people actually want. It is the best book ever, and if you haven't heard about it already, then that's great. I'm glad I could be the first one to share it with you. But this is a absolute must read if you are starting anything and you want to unleash your something amazing and you want it to be profitable and you want it to be successful. Start with this book. Read it. It's a very short book, and I think you can actually kind of like just peruse through it to get some of the key points. But this book is amazing. I will leave this link down below so that you can get it, and I will just show you one more time. But yeah, this book is amazing. Amazing. Anyway, I hope that helped you this week. I will see you soon, and thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions or you have any questions for me, obviously leave them down in the comments, or you can go to my website and you can leave them there as well. And I will have that link in the description box as well. In the description box as well. So anyway, see you guys soon. Thanks so much again for watching. Bye-bye.